Episode 148. Han Li silently pondered this as he walked into the hall, carrying the two medicine boxes. He then opened the lids one by one in front of Lei Wanhei, presenting them for the so-called appraisal. At that moment, Lei Wanhei was feeling quite put out. He had indeed released his spiritual sense while Han Li was fetching the herbs, hoping to probe the size and layout of the cave abode. It wasn't that he had any ill intent, it was simply the instinctive, automatic behavior of a core formation cultivator. But when his spiritual sense extended just over a dozen yards from his body, it suddenly felt as heavy as lead, utterly unable to spread a single inch further. Lei Wanhei's broad face immediately registered profound astonishment.
This situation, where my spiritual sense is confined, isn't something I haven't encountered before. I've run into the exact same thing at the cave dwellings of several fellow cultivators I'm on good terms with. This is clearly a restriction blocking spiritual sense. But my friends are all core formation cultivators, so it's no surprise their abodes would have such measures. But this junior is clearly only at the foundation establishment stage, and this cave dwelling looks newly built. Could such a restriction really appear here? That is rather odd.
Lei Wanhei didn't connect the appearance of this restriction to the grand formation outside the cave abode. In his view, the fact that the outer formation possessed such formidable defensive capabilities was already impressive enough. If it could also block spiritual sense and other such effects, wouldn't that make this array comparable to the guardian formations of some minor sects? How could such a powerful array possibly be guarding the cave dwelling of a mere foundation establishment disciple? Lei Wanhei could never have imagined that Han Li's array was actually a simplified version of the famous inverted 5 elements array. Even with only a tenth of the original formation's power, it wasn't much worse than those so-called sect-defending grand arrays. So when Han Li opened the box to show him, his mind was still elsewhere, his gaze not immediately dropping to the contents inside, his attitude one of utter indifference. But when his gaze finally landed on those two 600 to 700-year-old herbs, his previously lazy expression vanished in an instant. As for things like restrictions or spiritual sense, they were tossed to the back of his mind. Lei Wanhei's eyes were now fixed solely on these two plants, brimming with potent spiritual qi.
I acquired these 2 spirit herbs from outside, spending quite a few spirit stones. But my experience is too shallow, so I truly couldn't determine their exact medicinal age. That's why I've never used them. Now that Uncle Lei is here, you can help this junior appraise them.
At that moment, Lei Wanhei wasn't really listening to what Han Li was saying. He gave a few absent-minded grunts before carefully picking up a spirit herb to examine. Han Li took note of the man's expression, a faint smile touching his heart.
Looks like I picked the right 2 herbs.
Han Li had long heard that core formation cultivators craved spirit herbs and plants even more than foundation establishment ones. At that level, simply advancing one's magic power by a single tier was a monumental task, let alone attempting to transform the core into an infant soul. Therefore, consuming large quantities of pills became the standard method for core formation cultivators to increase their magic power. Ordinary pills in this world are useless to core formation cultivators. Only spirit pills, refined from herbs centuries old or rare, heaven-born spiritual ingredients, can accelerate their cultivation. So, a core formation cultivator's travels are mostly spent scouring the land for these exceedingly rare herbs.
That must be why Li Huaiwen was so desperate to take me as his disciple the moment he saw all the spirit herbs I brought out from the forbidden area. But even if the team leader back then hadn't been Li Huaiwen, but some other core formation cultivator, they probably wouldn't have let my share of spirit herbs go. 9 times out of 10, they'd have used the same method. It's just that Li Huaiwen was a bit stingy. He only agreed to take me on as a nominal disciple.
However, taking pills is merely an auxiliary method for increasing magic power. It only shortens the time needed for meditation and absorbing spiritual qi. Diligent cultivation is the true path to converting spiritual qi into your own magic power. When facing a bottleneck, using the spiritual power of a pill to break through is a common tactic among cultivators, and one that's proven to be quite effective. And this cultivator, Lei Wanhei, had hit just such a bottleneck. In fact, he'd only just returned from a trip outside to gather herbs for the very purpose of refining an auxiliary pill. But this time, his luck was truly abysmal. Aside from finding 2 medicinal herbs over 400 years old, he came back empty-handed. It left him stewing in a bellyful of frustration. That was the main reason he'd immediately resorted to lethal force upon seeing the 1,000 bamboo sect disciples. Lei Wanhei's thoughts were in turmoil.
In my 300 years of cultivation, what kind of medicinal herb haven't I seen? I can tell at a glance these 2 spirit herbs are anything but ordinary. You see, I'm planning to refine a batch of Zongyuan pills right now, and what I'm missing are spirit medicines over 500 years old. But I've searched the entire Yue kingdom, and I haven't found a single medicinal herb that satisfies me. It's forced me to settle for 2 subpar 400-year-old specimens just to make do. But I also know that using spirit herbs of insufficient age to refine the Zongyuan pill, even if the pill is successfully formed, its efficacy will be greatly diminished. It won't be of much help to me. But I simply don't have the right main ingredients on hand. Searching for them now would just be a waste of time.
So when Lei Wanhei heard Han Li mention some aged medicinal herbs outside the cave dwelling, his interest was piqued. He entered this utterly crude abode on a whim just to see what was there. Now, these 2 spiritual herbs, each 600 to 700 years old, had suddenly appeared before his eyes. He could scarcely believe it, and was utterly overjoyed. So while he appeared to be intently studying the 2 herbs in his hands, as if appraising their age, he was actually already thinking about how to get them from his junior.
Such a rare treasure is wasted in his hands. It would serve its purpose best by being refined into pills by a great cultivator like me.
But Lei Wanhei was an old fox who'd lived for many years. In the blink of an eye, he'd already cooked up an excuse. He cleared his throat twice, placed the herbs back into the box, and then, twisting his almost non-existent neck, answered Han Li.
Nephew, these 2 herbs are truly rare treasures. They must be 600 or 700 years old. I imagine it took you no small effort to acquire them.
Indeed, I had to go to great lengths to snatch these at a secret auction. There was also a 1,000-year spirit herb for sale at the time. Unfortunately, I simply didn't have the means to buy it and could only watch helplessly as someone else snapped it up. It's still a bit of a sore spot for me.
A secret shop and a 1,000-year spirit herb.
The fat man practically leapt from the stone bench. For him, this wasn't just a regret. It was like having his heart carved out.
As a core formation cultivator, I've gone to such lengths searching for spirit herbs and medicines. I've visited 7 or 8 secret shops across the land. How is it that I never stumbled upon such a stroke of luck? If I had been there, I would never have let such a treasure slip through my fingers. I'd have been more than willing to pay any number of spirit stones for it.
The thought that this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity had slipped right through this kid's fingers made the fat man absolutely furious. He had the sudden, violent urge to grab the guy by the neck and shake an answer out of him.
Of course, he knew it was perfectly normal for a Foundation establishment disciple to be unable to afford such an astronomically priced item.
All right, it's gone. There might be another chance like this in the future.
The fat man finally managed to calm himself down and even offered Han Li a few words of consolation that didn't quite match his true feelings. After all, he still had designs on those 2 spirit herbs. There was no way he was letting them slip through his fingers now.
Nephew Han, what are your plans for these 2 spirit herbs? Surely you're not thinking of handing them over to the sex alchemists? But as your martial uncle, I have to warn you, the skill of our Yellow Maple Valley's alchemists is, well, let's just say it's rather lacking. Handing such precious materials over to them would be a complete waste. you'd be throwing away a fortune.
Why would I let them refine it? I'm planning to trade these spirit herbs for something far more useful. I nearly went bankrupt buying these spirit herbs. Why on earth would I waste them?
Han Li shook his head emphatically, saying something that took Lei Wanhe completely by surprise and left the man's prepared speech stuck in his throat.
Nephew, isn't it better to trade herbs for what you need? With my status as a core formation cultivator, aside from those extremely rare alchemy and artifact forging materials, is there anything he could want that I couldn't provide? This is the perfect chance to get what we need right out in the open.
At that thought, Lei Wanhe's eyes crinkled even more with his smile, making him look all the more amiable.
What is it you need, Nephew Han? Uncle, I've collected quite a few things over the centuries. I might just have what you're looking for.
Uncle, do you need this herb as well? In that case, this disciple can offer one to you, Martial Uncle, as a token of my respect.
Seeing Han Li was so sharp-witted, not even mentioning an exchange and immediately offering to gift him a spirit herb, Lei Wanhe. He was immensely pleased, and Han Li looked all the more agreeable to him. But the fatty's goal was to take both plants. He couldn't bear to let the remaining one go either.